So we've had some big fight announcements today and a few fight announcements in the last week, which we're going to be going over in today's video. Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot, Dan Ige versus Bryce Mitchell, Dolidze versus Derek Brunson, Alex Caceres versus Giga Chikadze, as well as Edson Barboza versus Sodiq Yusuff, as well as Santiago Ponzinibio versus Daniel Rodriguez. So some massive fight announcements, really exciting scraps that have been made recently. So I'm going to go through all of these fights, give an early prediction and breakdown, just a quick sort of preview of the fights, and give you my early leans and just talk about the matchups. And then I'll probably go through some smaller fight announcements as well at the end of the video. But starting off with the most recent fight announcement, Daniel Rodriguez versus Santiago Ponzinibio. This is announced for September 16th. That's the T-Mobile card, headlined by Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Really exciting fight here, and as a fight night as well, this card's looking really stacked. It's got Shavkat versus Kelvin Gastelum on there. We've got this on there, and a few other really good fights so far, and it's not even completed yet. So that's looking to be a really exciting card. And another matchup here with Ponzinibio and D-Rod that's been added to it, which definitely is going to be back and forth on the feet and a very exciting fight. As far as an early lean, I'll go with I'll go with Santiago Ponzinibbio. I first kind of thought D-Rod, but I've kind of thought, and I do like Santiago Ponzinibbio and how he looked in his recent fights. Um, okay, look, like he didn't look the best against Alex Morono in that fight before the finish, and he did end up getting finished by Kevin Holland. But he was holding up relatively competitively in that fight. He wasn't getting pieced up or picked apart, and that's a Kevin Holland who fought relatively competitively with Stephen Thompson for like 15 of the 20 minutes that they fought. So I do think he's definitely not out of this fight here. Daniel Rodriguez getting up there in age. I'll just look at the age of the two of them. He's coming off that KO loss of Derek, not of Ian Gary, sorry. Daniel Rodriguez is 36 or 37 years of age, so he's really getting up there in age. Santiago Ponzinibbio, I don't believe is as old. No, okay, well they're both the same age, so never mind. But Daniel Rodriguez coming off a pretty bad TKO loss to Ian Gary, and that was in May. So he's not turning around very quickly. Only a few months, 4 month turnarounds for him, which is somewhat worrying when it comes to this fight because Santiago Ponzinibbio does hit pretty hard. Um, I do think this fight's going to be contested on the feet. I think it's going to be pretty back and forth. But I can just see Santiago Ponzinibbio using the reach advantage and just using his range and having the height advantage here to just be a bit harder to hit than Daniel Rodriguez, who's never been the most defensively sound kind of guy. And I think if Santiago Ponzinibbio fights smart and fights correctly, I think he can stick behind the weapons that he has. I think Daniel Rodriguez might be a bit more of a technical boxer, or at least with the jab. I think he's got a good jab, which is going to be useful in this fight. But I think overall, Ponzinibbio has just got a few more weapons. It could mix up the takedowns. Unlikely, but it could happen. And I just think he's going to win this fight by probably a close 29-28 decision, maybe a split. But I'll definitely do more research into this fight when it gets closer in fight week, so I can do an official prediction. But early lean, Santiago Ponzinibbio by decision. Moving on to the next fight announcement. Bryce Mitchell versus Dan Ige is official for September 23rd, which is the co-main event of a fight night headlined by Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot, which I'm going to be talking about later in this video. But a really good fight and an important featherweight matchup here. Bryce Mitchell coming off a pretty bad loss to Ilia Topuria back in December. Dan Ige coming off a pretty impressive win over Nate Landwehr, and before that he also KO'd Damon Jackson. So he's on a bit of a streak. He's fought twice in 2023 already, looking to make it 3 wins this year. Bryce Mitchell, obviously, his last fight was in December against Ilia Topuria. He pulled out of the fight against Movsar Evlov, which was going to be in May, but he did pull out. He had a bit of a shoulder issue, which also could be a little bit worrying in this fight. I do imagine that would be healed up by now. This matchup's still quite a few months away. Um, I'm gonna lean with Bryce Mitchell in this fight. I'm gonna lean. I'm not confident on Bryce Mitchell, and I may change my pick as we get closer to the fight. But I just think he's good enough to take down Dan Ige. I think Dan Ige is definitely better on the feet, and he's going to be looking to keep it there. But Bryce Mitchell, I just think like he took down Ilya Tapoya in their fight and held him down for the last minute of the first round, which is a really impressive thing to do. Given that we've seen how good Ilya Tapoya looks recently. And so a bad loss to me doesn't mean that you're kind of out and you're not a contender anymore. Because if you look at that bad loss, it's to a guy whose next fight is most likely going to be for the title. Maybe he's going to fight one more time, but he's probably looking at fighting Alexander Volkanovski next later in the year. So to get beat up and submitted by this guy in the second round, to me, isn't that bad or isn't that big of a deal. Obviously, in terms of the damage that he took in that fight and recovering from that, I think he should be fine. It's 9 months later, um, December to September, like that's a easy turnaround for him. I don't think he's going to be that affected by like the damage or anything like that. So yeah, I just don't think it's that big a deal to lose to a top guy that's fighting for the title. And I think it took down to Poirier, looked actually okay, even on the feet was doing all right. I do think Ige is going to be quicker and slicker on the feet with more power. He's definitely going to be trying to keep it on the feet. He'll have the advantage there. Um, but I haven't seen him really like be some amazing takedown defense kind of guy. Like he's been taken down before, like lost to Evloev, all that kind of thing. Like he's lost to guys in the grappling before. It's not like he's some Jose Aldo level takedown defense. So I do think Bryce Mitchell, who took down Barboza very easily, who looks actually pretty good in his last few fights, and also has a fight booked, which we're going to talk about in a bit. So he took down Barboza. Like he's taken down guys. He's dominated a lot of guys. So I think one bad loss shouldn't kind of completely halt your opinions of someone. Don't get me wrong. Do I think he's going to be a top five guy? Probably not. Do I think he's going to fight for a belt? Probably not. Do I think he's going to win a title? Definitely not. But I do think he is still in that top kind of 10 level or has that capability to be. So I do think he might. I do think he's going to scrape a win over Dan Ige. I don't think he finishes him. I think Dan Ige has shown pretty good defensive grappling capabilities once he's on the ground to not get finished. Um, like against Evloev, survived to a decision. But I do believe that it's going to go distance, and I think at least two of the 3 rounds is going to be 90% or 80 or 70% of control time for Bryce Mitchell. And even if Ige does more damage, I just think it's going to be a visual of just being held down for 3 minutes. Doesn't matter how much damage you do, unless you completely put the guy on wobbly legs and drop them. Takedowns, if you held them down for 3 minutes, even though that's not meant to be what is scoring the criteria, like that's usually what the judges end up scoring it on. So I do believe that Mitchell's going to get it done on the scorecards, and then he'll fight up the rankings, maybe a Josh Emmett or something like that. But it's an interesting matchup and a really good fight as the co-main event of a fight night. Like there's been weaker fights than this that have main evented Apex fight nights, and the fact that this is co-main eventing, really good stuff. Um, but moving on to the next fight announcement: Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot. This is a big one. This is the most exciting fight of the lot, in my opinion. September 23rd, Fight Night main event. I actually predicted this on my Instagram. Go to my Instagram story, Left Lane MMA. Follow it if you're not already. Um, Go to my first story. It should be the first one that pops up if you haven't looked at any of my other stories. Um, and I said because Gamrot tweeted, he said fight announcement, contract signed, fight announcement coming soon. And I'm like, Rafael Fiziev, 23rd of September, Fight Night main event. I said that word for word. There's no doubt about it. I said that word for word on my story, and you can call me Mystic Mac because I predict these teams. I'm very happy with myself for getting that. A lot of people did think that this was going to be the fight that did happen, but I predicted it, date and all, Fight Night main event when it was said that Mateusz Gamma had a fight book, so I'm pretty happy with myself there. But let's talk about the fight. This is a really exciting one. Top lightweights, number 6 versus number 7, Rafael Fiziev, the number 6 ranked lightweight, Gamrot number 7. Both coming off losses. Sorry, no, Fiziev coming off a loss, Gamrot coming off a very close win, and before that a loss. But both have lost both times. Both fighters that have fought in the top 5 once and lost. So Fiziev lost a pretty straightforward 29-28 decision to Justin Gaethje, and then Gamrot lost a pretty straightforward, clear UD to Beneil Dariush last October. After that, he did rebound with a win against Jalen Turner. But we have just seen Jalen Turner get shown to be kind of a bit schooled, not schooled, but kind of shown, put in his place by Dan Hooker, who a lot of people thought was washed and out the door. And Gamrot pretty much won that fight by just spamming takedowns and holding onto the legs and not giving Turner enough space. But definitely an argument that Turner could have won that fight, and he definitely landed the bigger shots in the fight. Um, so I do think, as the prediction goes, I'm going with Rafael Fiziev. I do think he looked really good in the Gaethje fight, especially in the first round. I think Rafael Fiziev is as dangerous as anyone on the feet in the lightweight division, if not the sport, in the first round. I think he's one of the best first round fighters that we've seen, and that's shown by the Gaethje fight. Like he clearly beat Gaethje in the first. He was quick as hell. Like he was so quick. Watching that fight, just seeing him just zoom kicks past Gaethje's head, it was crazy to see. But he obviously did slow down a bit. But that's in a high-paced, striking fight with Dustin Gaethje, who's got excellent cardio. And if Gaethje wins this weekend, which I'm predicting him to, that win's really not. So that loss is not going to look that bad on his record. That's really not going to be a devastating loss. And I just still don't think it is because if you look at that fight, went three with Gaethje, did get rocked a little bit, was in a lot of trouble, got his face busted up, but held it pretty competitive for a lot of the fight. So I think on the feet he absolutely tears Gamrot apart. Even if it's in the fifth round and he's gassed, because he went five or for like 4.5 with RDA when he knocked him out in the fifth round at a decent pace and won. So I don't think this is some kind of thing like Gaethje. So like Fiziev's got zero cardio. Like he gassed, or he didn't even gas. He just slowed down after an extremely high-paced fight. So I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of or worried about or concerned about if you're Rafael Fiziev. I do think that the grappling pace and the ferocity that Gamrot shoots his takedowns with and wrestles at, the intensity that he will just go for your legs constantly and not give up, kind of like that Marab style of wrestling, I'm going to call it now. I won't even call it Dagestani because Dagestanis get takedowns and hold you down. Gamrot just spams takedowns and just hold onto your legs, even on the feet. So that's going to be something that will definitely wear on Rafael Fiziev. But I think in the first round, he's a real problem to Gamrot, and I do think he can catch him in one of the first two rounds. I'm picking him to win this fight as an early lean by a second round TKO or maybe even a flat KO. We've seen him knock guys out flat before, and I think Gamrot hasn't like he's never shown like a bad chin. He's not like a granite chin guy. Like he got dropped by Dariush with like a looping overhand. And I think if he's getting dropped by Dariush, not to say that Benil Dariush doesn't hit hard, he obviously does, but I think Rafael Fiziev is just so quick that if he catches him with something like that, like an overhand or an uppercut or a knee, if he kicks or knees Mateusz Gamrot in the head, he's going out. So I'm going to pick him to win this fight by a TKO or KO. I think he's going to intercept him on the takedown. I think Gamrot's going to be in a lot of trouble on the feet, a lot of trouble. He's going to be really worried, and he's not going to have the speed down. Like we saw him go a competitive fight with Arman Tsarukyan, in a fight which I believe he lost. He got it done on the scorecards in the judges' eyes, but I thought there was a definite argument that Arman Tsarukyan won that fight, and we've just seen Arman um, be in a bit of trouble with Joaquim Silva on the feet and get rocked in that matchup. So I would be not so quick to kind of say that Gamrot's going to win this fight easily just because you see him fight Arman or you see him fight Dariush. Like I think Fiziev's a real threat in this matchup, and I think he's got some good takedown defense. Like he's defended takedowns from guys like RDA. He's defended takedowns from all these other guys. It's like he's got these short kind of stocky arms and like good for getting underhooks. He's really good in the clinch too. I can see Gamrot shooting takedowns, and then Fiziev kind of stuffs him and ends up in the clinch and makes him pay with some knees and some kicks to the body or some elbows in close, and those are really going to wear down on Mateusz Gamrot as the fight goes on. So even if it does make it out of the second and third rounds and it goes into the championship rounds, both guys have been there. It's not some kind of unseen territory for Fiziev where he's going to just start majorly gassing or like he's got some Zabit level cardio where he just falls off after two rounds. Like he wasn't even completely cooked after the second or third against Gaethje. Like he's slowed down with the kicks, but kicks are a really high energy kind of tool, and when you're throwing them that quick, I'm not surprised he's gassing out. But I do believe he's going to win this fight by TKO in the second, and move on to a top-ranked opponent, maybe the loser of the main event this weekend. But moving on, Alex Caceres versus Giga Chikadze is official for August 26th. That's the Singapore card, and that's got some really good matchups on it. Max Holloway versus Korean Zombie, Ryan Spann versus Anthony Smith, Aaron Blanchford versus Tyler Santos, and now Alex Caceres versus Giga Chikadze. That card's looking really exciting. As well as Chidi and Jokwani versus Mikhail Jacek, like another few good fights on there. So this should be a really fun scrap. Like um, Junior Tough is fighting on there against Parker Porter as well. So some really good fights and a featherweight fight here. This is a really exciting one. Giga Chikadze coming off a very long layoff. Last time he fought was in it was in January of 2022. So he's taken. This is going to be 20 months, I believe. I'm not sure the exact amount of days, but I think it's going to be roughly 20 months by the time he returns to the cage, and I don't like that for him. But I just think if you look at his skill and if you look at how good he is, and also taking the time off and working on some things, which I believe he would be foolish to not do, I do think he's going to get this one done against Alex Caceres, and I think I can see him TKOing him with a body kick. Is going to be a interesting little prediction of mine. He's got some of the best kicks in the division, even in the sport. I think Yair Rodriguez is ahead of him. I think like Volkanovski leg kick wise, but in terms of the power on his kicks and the body kicks that he possesses are a really dangerous thing in that featherweight division, and he's stopped guys with body kicks in his kickboxing career, in his MMA career. And Alex Caceres, I can see being a guy that can get TKO'd by a body kick. If you look at his physique, he's this tall, kind of lean guy, not a lot of muscle. Doesn't look like he's got the strongest kind of armor, strongest kind of abs, protecting those livers and those kidneys. Um, so I think I can see him getting cracked with a body kick. I can see him getting his legs chewed up, and I can see him trying to check the leg kicks and focus so much on the leg kicks, and he gets caught to the body. Giga Chikadze does a really good job of kind of pulling back, pretend these are your toes, pulling back those toes and hitting you with the heel and the ball of the foot, right to the liver, right to the guts, and it knocks guys down and it wins them badly. So I can see him catching him with a shot here. I think Alex Caceres would be wise to wrestle in this fight. Giga got hells down for a brief period of time by Kelvin Cater in their fight, which was the last time we saw him in the octagon. Before that, though, like he's beat guys like Barboza. Like he's definitely there. He outkicked Barboza and TKO'd him, and that's Edson Barboza, who's one of the better kickers in the lighter weight classes, at least in his prime. Maybe not now, but definitely a few years ago. So I do think he's going to have the definite speed advantage here. I think the reach of Alex Caceres could give a Giga Chikadze some problems. I definitely think that's something, and I do think that grappling wise, while Caceres is not some like high level grappler, he's got jiu-jitsu. He was in an armbar attempt from Daniel Pineda in his last fight. But I do think he's got some solid grappling. He's taken guys down before. Um, but overall, I just think Giga, I think he's on his way up, even though he did take that loss to Cater. I think he kind of needed that to humble himself, to kind of take a look at himself in the mirror and just be like, I'm not quite him yet. Like, I'm not a top five guy. I just need to work some skills. I need to get the grappling defense better. I need to learn how to get up from bottom. And I need to be able to fight at a sustainable pace for 5 rounds because he was gassing hard in those later rounds and sort of like a beat situation. He's got those explosive kicks early and he's as dangerous as anyone in the first few rounds. But after those kicks kind of fade and he doesn't have that fight-ending potential on those liver kicks, he starts to lose his potency on the feet. And he's got some decent hands, but Calvin Cater put him to school and put him through a blender when they fought with the hands and the elbows. So I definitely think he needs to work a lot of things in his game here, and I assume he would have. So I expect him to get this one done by a TKO. But we're going to move on. Edson Barboza versus Sodiq Yusuff. This is October 14th as on a fight night. Not the main event, I don't believe. Let me just check. No main event for this fight. So probably going to end up being a co-main or on the main card of an Apex fight night, which is really exciting as well. Um, Edson Barboza looked really good in his last fight against Billy Quarantillo. Um, so I'm excited to see him back. I'll be rooting for him hard in this matchup. I definitely think He's one of my favorite guys to watch when he's on and he's getting those his striking is so fun to watch. And that knee against Billy Quarantillo, that was sick. Sodiq Yusuff though, I'll be completely honest, I'm not gonna kind of sit here and waffle. I haven't seen many of his fights. I know he fought Arnold Allen to a loss, did okay in that matchup. He fought a guy back in September. I do forget his name. I'm just gonna see if I can see his record. He's beat Caceres, he's beat Mike Davis, Andre Feely. I do remember he got a very quick finish. I think it was a guillotine um, back in September. Apologies here. I'm just going to look up. It was on the Corey Sandhagen versus Song Yadong card. I know what I'm talking about, guys. Corey Sandhagen. No, sorry. Let me just go. UFC 279. It was right after that card, I believe. And he got a quick finish because he was going to fight Giga Chikadze on that card, but he pulled out. And he ended up fighting. Who did he fight? Let's see here. I know he fought. I know he fought. Sodiq Yusuff, where are you, my friend? Um, he got a quick guillotine finish. He got bumped down, I do believe. He should be here somewhere. Am I dumb? Sodiq Yusuff. I swear to God, he fought. Sodiq Yusuff. He fought someone. He was gonna. I'm actually this thing's taking the piss. Um, but I remember he got a guillotine finish. He fought very quickly. Don Shainis, UFC Fight Night, October. My bad. Okay, it was October. He got a quick finish. He was going to fight Giga Chikadze, but he pulled out, and then they ended up pushing him back to a later card. Sorry, they took way too long. Yeah, fought Don Shainis, not the most impressive guy. That's a guy that's lost pretty comfortably to Jack Jenkins. So I don't rate Sodiq Yusuff's wins super highly. And I do think Edson Barboza is really dangerous in the first round. And Sodiq Yusuff has shown to get kind of cracked and wobbled by some shots. And I can see that happening here. And I can see Barboza fucking him up with the kicks to the body, to the legs, and then maybe catching him with a knee or a kick to the head, and putting him down and out, or TKOing him in the first few rounds. So that's going to be my prediction for that fight. He's looked really good in his last few fights, Edson Barboza, and I got a lot of faith in him here. If he loses this, he's probably on the way out. It just depends how hungry he is in his career. Sodiq Yusuff, obviously up and coming in a way, hasn't kind of made that money. It hasn't fought for those titles. Hasn't made the top 10, and he's going to be looking to do that. But I do think Barboza is one of those guys that, as a striker, Sodiq Yusuff's not some amazing like elite Brian Ortega level grappler or Bryce Mitchell kind of wrestler. I do think he's going to catch him coming in, even if he does shoot takedowns. I think he's going to catch him coming in with a knee or a kick, and I think that's going to cause some problems. I think that's going to cause some problems for Sodiq Yusuff. So I see him losing this fight. I see Barboza winning and then probably fighting one more time and then retiring in front of a crowd, because I think he should be on pay per view or should be in front of fight nights, because this is a guy that gets arenas alight and puts them on their feet whenever he fights. But we're going to move on to the last notable fight announcement: Derek Brunson versus Roman Dolidze. That's UFC 295, November 11th. Not sure if this is going to be on the main card or not. If it is, cool. If it's not, then that means that card's absolutely stacked. So really excited to see that one. Um, as far as this one goes, I do believe that Roman Dolidze is going to win. I think he's more dangerous everywhere. I think he's a better striker. Derek Brunson's also only got really one round of cardio, as we've seen pretty recently. And then Roman Dolidze is as good as anyone at wrapping up submissions off his back. So I do believe he's going to catch Roman Dolidze in something if he does shoot takedowns. Or I think Roman Dolidze is going to catch Derek Brunson in something if he does shoot a takedown, which he definitely will, because that's what he does against everyone. So I can see him shooting the first few takedowns with success. Um, I can see him getting him down, holding him down, staying out of danger on the ground. But then I do believe that the next few times he takes him down, when he's more tired, Roman Dolidze is going to find it a lot easier to wrap up a leg or wrap up a triangle or something and submit Derek Brunson off his back, or maybe get a TKO on the feet when Brunson's just exhausted, because he's basically out the door. He said he was pretty much retired after the Drickers fight, but then said, "No, I changed my mind." And so far, every single time we've seen that, the guy has not won that next fight. It happened with Damir Ismagulov as well. Like, if you hear a guy say I'm not too sure about this. I don't really want to keep going. And then they go, I'll keep going. I'll have one last fight. Do not pick them to win in any way because that clearly means they don't care enough about their career. Um, so yeah, I'm picking Roman Dolidze by a round 1 or 2 submission, or with the slight chance of a TKO as well if it stays standing. But if Brunson gets the takedown, which I think Dolidze will welcome, I think he can definitely submit Derek Brunson off his back. Just really quickly, we're going to go over some kind of less lower name fight announcements. Nasrat Haqparast versus Sam Patterson. That's the UFC Paris card. I'll pick Nasrat Haqparast. Sam Patterson got chinned in his debut and looked terrible. Jamie Malarkey versus John Makdessi. I'll be picking Jamie Malarkey. That's in Sydney. Um, we've got Daniel Zalhuba versus Christos Iagos. I'll pick Christos Iagos. He looked good in his last fight and got a finish, so that was impressive. Sangwoo Choi versus Jarno Enkins. I'll go with Sangwoo Choi. Looked good in his fight against Mike Trezano, a bit wild, but I think he can kind of sort that out here. That's in Singapore. Tajomi Kazama versus Garrett Armfield. I'll be going with Tajomi Kazama. No real logic on this fight. I'm not too familiar with either guy. They're both 0-1 in the UFC, so trying to get a win here. In Singapore, I'll say his home crowd helps him get over the line. Taylor Lapoulis versus Muin Gafarov. I'll go with Muin Gafarov. He looked pretty good in his debut, even though he lost. But I was pretty impressed with how he looked. And Taylor Lapoulis hasn't fought really anyone extremely high level, so I think Gafarov's going to win. But those are all the fight announcements that have been made recently, guys. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Just wanted to make this video. Bunch of fight announcements all at once, which was kind of weird, but I'm more than happy to go over them, give my predictions. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think is going to win all of these fights? And yeah, next video should be on Sunday, and it'll be a UFC 291 recap, and then I'll probably get the podcast out on Monday or Tuesday. Will be my estimated release for that one. But see you guys. Peace.